day. Every day is GST. I gotta look at this camera now. It's weird not looking like this one. Well, hello, welcome to GOL Fireside Chat. I know, which camera do we look at? I know we've got a couple different cameras.
I'm curious, why are you're on your camera up?
I know we got one right here.
Oh, she's
she's right there.
Way better.
There we go.
Way well.
Okay, we're gonna get this started,
Wait,
Dana. I was like, wait, it's like,
Oh my
hi,
God.
where are you, Dana? So as always, we're gonna be recording and having this on the GOL member portal, and it is exclusive and designed for the professional members of GOL to help find the gaps and the spaces in our businesses. And it doesn't matter if you're just starting business or if you've been in business for 10 or 20 years, there's always areas that we can fill in the gaps. And so it's bringing in the experts to be able to help us do that. So today's topic that we're working on, and we had this a little over a year ago, was pricing strategies and mindset, money mindset. And so we're going to work off of that again since we're over a year and a quarter. And so we have David DeArmond with Strix Technologies. And so he helped us last time, and we're going to be going over that again today. So I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to you and we'll get started.
Okay.
And I think we're also going to, as part of this, it is Fireside Chat. So this is an open table to ask questions. So a little bit, the idea around this is if we were sitting around a fire and having these discussions. So even though it's recorded and I'm currently kind of speaking to you guys that are going to watch this later, you guys are going to be a fly on the wall. But I think just having that open dialogue at the table together will be important. And also just the mindset part. Just being able to, because a lot of us struggle around the mindset of how we price and our money, thoughts about money. And so I think we've got some great experts at the table right now to talk about that. So yeah, I'll hand it to you. Go ahead if you'd like to take over.
Yeah, so we want to, this is all about growing our business, right? And what do we do to protect and grow our business so that we stay in business, we stay in service to the people that we're trying to help. Stats on businesses that fail, has anybody heard those stats on what percentage of businesses fail?
a lot higher than I wanted.
50% in the first 1 or 2 years.
It's 20% within the first year. So 20% of all businesses that try to get going, they don't even make it through the first year. So it's an accomplishment to get through the first year. And then if you push that out to 5 years, yeah, it's 50%. So half of the people that try to get started in their business, by year 5, they're out, whatever reason. A lot of times that reason is very simple. It's because they make less money than they spend. And so, you know, when it comes to business, when you boil it all down, there's all these complications that go with business, but when you boil it down, is your revenue greater than your expenses? Because as long as your revenue is greater than your expenses, you can stay in business, right? But as soon as those expenses get more than revenue, then you start having problems. And that's when the business will start tanking. And so we want to look at how do we make sure that the revenue stays high enough to cover all of those expenses. And there's, of course, you got to do your marketing and your sales. That brings in revenue, right? That's what a lot of people think of when you say revenue, thinking of going and getting all of the new customers and bring them in, and they never look at their pricing. And they never understand that the reason they don't have enough revenue, despite doing pretty well, maybe in marketing and sales, is because they're not bringing in still enough revenue. Their price is not set high enough to cover their expenses. And so we want to dig into that because there are different strategies that you can go with in how you determine what your pricing is going to be. You know, one of the most common pricing strategies is called the WAG strategy. WAG, it's an acronym. I don't know if you guys have heard of that acronym before. So it stands for Wild Ass Yes.
Is your what?
Wild Ass Yes. So that's the way a lot of people approach their pricing, right? They just take a guess. This sounds good. We'll try that. So before we get into the individual strategies, want to maybe define some basics here, the fundamentals of the cost, the revenue, the expenses in your business. Number one is supply and demand, right? Everybody's familiar with supply and demand. The greater the supply, the lower prices drop, and the greater the demand, the higher the prices go, right? And so there's this balance between those two, between supply and demand, that help define what the market will accept for whatever your price may be. Revenue, that's money coming in. So that one's pretty simple. Now, expenses is, to me, where it starts getting complicated. People think of expenses as just the money going out, but where's the money going out? What different types of expenses are you going to run into? There's three major areas of expenses. One is your cost of goods sold, right? And so that is a cost that is directly related to you delivering your product. So Dana, you have, especially with your new business, you have supplies that you're buying, right?
Yes.
It talks about some of the things that
Oh, tincture bottles, labels, man, what, I just bought 5 gallons of glycerin. I got to get the alcohol for the tinctures, like you buy the honey from the local farmers, like it's all kinds of things to create the product of the plants, right? And I even go harvest the plants for a lot of it, or buy the plants, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So a lot of cogs in my life.
Yeah, so the COGS, that's all of those costs that go into delivering your product. Now, you're more in the services industry, right? So
Yes.
what are some of when you think about your expenses, what are some of the expenses that you have that are directly related to your,
I buy crystals,
okay,
lots of them.
yeah,
So I would say I'm on the wrong end. Cause I buy crystals.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
yeah, so that if you're using the crystals in order to perform your services, then that is a cost of the good that you're selling, right? And so you want to classify those costs as cost of goods sold, your COGS. But there are other costs, there are other expenses that go into a business that are not necessarily directly related to delivering your product. And those are your operating costs. And that includes things like rent, utilities, your accountant, your legal expenses, consulting, insurance, marketing and advertising, travel, training, office supplies, license and permits. So.
Did you want to share your screen, David?
I can, it's just
Look at that.
an outline.
Oh, or is it the sheet?
No, it's my outline.
Oh, wait. Here, I can share that. I'll share them.
Okay.
While you're talking, oh, somebody's watching.
And things like office decor and office repair, things like that. So those are all of the other costs that you're gonna run into in running your business. It's not directly related to delivering your good, but it is a cost. And so you have to make sure that your revenue that you're bringing in is going to cover all of those costs, right? And then there's payroll. So if you have employees, that's the easy one to see for payroll. But I would encourage everyone to think about themselves when they're thinking about payroll. A lot of business owners, they get started, they don't pay themselves. They don't budget in paying themselves, and they set their prices and their expenses and everything else based on not paying themselves. And so then it doesn't matter how big you grow, because the price to pay yourself is not put into your pricing, like the cost to pay yourself, right? So expenses, that's a big one. Your value. So there are different, I guess, aspects of value. The one that we're most worried about in pricing is the value that other people put on your good or service. You're gonna have a tough time asking more, a price that's more than what people value your good or your service. If it's not valuable to them, they're not gonna pay. If it's very valuable, they'll pay a lot, okay? So value is one of those things, it's about what your customer base thinks your product or service is worth. And a lot of times that's very different than what you think your product or service is worth. It also changes depending on who you're targeting. So one person may think what you offer is very valuable. Someone who's not worried about dreams, they think dreams don't matter. They don't care about what you do. But other people that put a great deal of value in their dreams, they need to talk to you, and it's very valuable for them, right? And then profit. So profit is simply how much more revenue do you make than expenses. It's revenue minus expenses. Whatever's left over is your profit. You never want to be negative in your profit. You don't want to run a nonprofit business. It's hard to
An unofficial nonprofit.
the unofficial nonprofit. There are certainly ways to do well with a nonprofit, but when you're making less than you're spending, then you get into that percentage, right? All right. So those are some of the just the fundamental ideas and things that we need to know and understand as we get into these pricing models. And we can look here at these different strategies. So these are different strategies of how to approach your pricing. Now there's 3 listed at the top that are scratched out. There's price skimming, dynamic, and economy, right? And those are scratched out because they're used in very specific circumstances, especially when you're trying to enter a market. And so we're not going to get too deep into those. So we're looking at more of the basic pricing strategies. Dynamic is pretty interesting. It's the Uber model where the price changes depending on demand, but you have to know what the demand is right now. And so the analytics that go behind that, it's very difficult. So we're not going to get into those. What we are going to look at are these 4 here. Starting with penetration pricing. And so what that is offering a lower price in an existing market. So is there an existing market for what you do right now? When I say existing market, are there others out there that are doing what you do? Yeah. And do you have a pretty good idea of what other people are charging to do what you do?
I'm priced pretty comparable. I might be a little bit higher with my Reiki sessions, but I've been doing it for 25 years, so I might go a little higher for a Reiki session, but coaching, I'm comparable or low actually compared to others.
Yeah. So if you wanted to really get yourself into the market, and maybe you're brand new, maybe you're moving from Las Vegas, and you're coming here, and you want to make an impact on the market, you want to get people to know you, you may do something like penetration pricing. And what that means is just really driving your price down. You're going to put it very low to get those first customers. You're going to attract some customers based on price alone, right? And that's of course one way to do things, as long as you have a strategy to increase your prices later. Because penetration pricing, if you keep penetration pricing, you'll end up with revenue lower than expenses, and you will go out of business. There's some examples here. Disney Plus, they came out when Disney first rolled out, it was like $6 a month or something. It was dirt cheap, and they just wanted to get people on board their platform. And now it's, I don't know, $20-something. They've increased the pricing, and they've lost customers that way, but they were able to get into the market, get people addicted to their service, and then raise the price on them. Probably you've seen it with internet service providers where you get that thing in the mail and it says, you can get internet for $29.99 a month. It's somebody trying to get into the market, and then they raise the price on you. They're just trying to get you as a customer to hold on. So that is a model
Right.
that you can go with, right? Another model, competitive pricing. And so this is one that is probably one of the most common. It's based on what is your competition doing. And so most people that start offering a good or service, they know what other people are charging for that same good or service, and they just charge the same thing. Right? That's good if you are if you're offering the same exact thing that someone else is offering. Gasoline is pretty much the same wherever you go. So there's competitive marketing, competitive pricing going on there. What I find though in most service oriented businesses, thing of what you do might be a little bit different than what other naturopaths do. So if you're doing something a little bit different, but you're pricing the same, your cost may be higher than what someone else is than their cost. And so again, you continue to do that and your revenue is going to be less than your expenses. Value-based pricing. This is one of the best pricing strategies. It's a little bit more difficult because you really have to understand what everyone else values your service at, right? So if you don't have a clear understanding of what your customers believe your service is worth, then you don't really know where to set it. But with value-based pricing, if you know that someone believes your service is worth 3, 4, 5 times your cost, your expenses, then you're able to charge that. And you're able to make really good profits because people value what it is and you understand your value according to them, right? All right. So those are 3, just go over those pretty quickly, but I want to dig into the cost plus pricing here. This is the one that we'll kind of dig into a bit more. Cost plus pricing is taking all of these expenses that we talked about a little while ago, and then you add a margin on top of it. You really have to understand what your expenses are. You add your margin on top of it. And what that does is it ensures right away that your revenue is going to be greater than your expenses because you've added up all of your expenses and you're charging more. So it ensures that revenue stays higher. It's also, it can help you identify some problems within your business. So if your expenses are too high and you run this exercise and you recognize your expenses are high, you recognize you're 2 or 3 times more than your competition, and then you can recognize I may have some expenses that are out of control. And it tells you, okay, we can start looking somewhere. Or it may tell you my expenses, what I'm charging is way under what I should be charging because I'm losing money from month to month, right? So if you'll flip the page here to the next page, we're going to get into kind of figuring all of this out. And this is where we really get to chat a bit. When you're looking at your pricing, there are some questions that you need to ask yourself about your business so that you can make some accurate decisions here. So first question here, what do I want out of my business? This can go in all kinds of different directions. We can start financially. What do you want out of your business? So, Nikki, what do you want out of your business?
Connection. Connection was the big one. Connection for people to get the healthcare that they deserve that isn't being provided currently by traditional medicine.
Okay. And you could do that for free.
But that there's operating costs.
There's operating costs. And is there any bit of it that you want for yourself? I mean, you're taking time away from family. So what is your time worth?
What is my, oh, that's a question. I know what I made as an hourly wage when I was working in physical therapy. And so I think something that is close to that or above that would be the most ideal for my time.
Yeah, so that's a great answer to put here. I want to make at least what my hourly wage was in working a real job, you know, whatever, the normal industry, because entrepreneurs are not normal people.
I like that question. I like how that formed, because that's kind of where I've been in the last few months, is looking at, you know, why am I doing this? You know, like, really, why am I doing this? You know, and then there's all the things like Nikki talked about. There's the altruistic things where we're in it because we see that we have a gift or something that we want to bring forth to the world. There's a void that we want to fulfill, and we seem to have some desire to do it. But then there's that, I want to make money, but we don't want to talk about the money part. But are we in business? So is this my ministry or is this my business? And that's really been the question I've been sitting with, because if this is my ministry, then forget the money part. It's not a business. Stop talking about like it's a business, do it, right? But if it's a business, then it has to be treated like a business on certain aspects. And so I love how you walked her through that to get to that part, because that's where it's a business, because a business by definition, right, makes money.
Right.
It provides a service or a profit.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even sure I was doing that. Yeah, that was what my goal was. And I think this is a very great question to start with, because many of us, especially that you're attracting people in this type of industry, you know, it's our side gig first. You know, it's not really the thing we do every day to put food on the table a lot of times. Or it says, you know, maybe we have a spouse or someone else that's providing that major industry. So I think that that's a very good place to start, and to think of it financially, to really turn on the other side of our brain, which we're not necessarily good at, most of us at this table. You know?
Well, there are people in our group that is their primary and
Right.
growth. So I think that's a nice blend within our group, that we have people at different stages in their business, right? The hobbyists, and then this is their full-time, and they're thriving and excelling and growing and quadrupling their size of their building, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I think that's the cool part to witness too.
I don't generally talk to people in this group about that. I don't talk to them about how they're growing their business. I talk to them about their magic, which I don't think of as their business, right? Because that's where my mind thinks. And I don't know if I'm an anomaly here, but I want to know what they provide, not how they provide it and make a profit and keep the doors open. So that's why this is the valuable conversation, because we could and can learn from each other if we have those conversations, for sure. And that, so, yeah. I love that.
So you have to come up with a number there,
Right?
right? So the only way that you can do a real analysis on whether you're charging the right amount is to know how much are you going to spend. And part of what your business is going to spend is on you. The business spends on you so that you can provide to the business, right? And we're going to get some more into that piece of it, because I think what you brought up there is, it's one of the greatest things and one of the biggest hurdles about people that go into it. I'd say the vast majority of people that go into business, especially in the GOL community, it's so service oriented, it's so giving oriented that people literally give it away. And then what happens when you give it away? And we're going to talk about that a bit more. How established is my business? So if you're looking at penetration pricing or competitive pricing, something along those lines, how established is your business compared to others? Are you well established? Have you been around 10, 15 years? Or are you brand new to the market? And you need to understand, where you are. You've got a brand new offering here, right? And so that has to go into your thinking of how am I gonna price? Am I gonna price aggressive to get customers? Or you can actually go the opposite way and price really high and work your way down to see where people are actually willing to buy. And because you have two businesses, you may be able to pull that off. Just depending on how you want to do it. But it's an important thing to understand. How established is my business? Who are my direct competitors and what do they charge? Jody, you talked some about other people that do what you do. So do you remember any offhand and
Well, like for Reiki, for a 90-minute session, I charge $150. I
okay.
don't know what they charge here. I know.
Okay. Yeah, and so that's an important thing that you need to learn and understand is, okay, what are people here charging? Because it's a little bit different market than where you're coming from, right? So that's an important one to know.
You moved here from
Las Vegas.
And how about, you said you're a coach too? You do have hourly coaching or?
I do a 3-month package for $3,500, 6 months for 6,500, I think.
And that's your prices now here. How long have you lived here?
Only a month.
Okay, so
Two
you
months.
just
Yeah,
arrived.
it's
This
brand
is
new.
perfect timing for you to, yeah, this is really cool. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So you've got some homework to do, right? You have to go out and understand what are other people charging for what I'm doing.
If she wants to do it, well, if she wants to do it locally, because you're also,
That's true.
a lot of our businesses are global, right?
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, you have to identify who your competition really is. Because it may not be the local person, it may be someone in New York. And so how you compete against someone in New York is going to be much different than how you compete with someone here. If you're doing a lot of Zoom, that sort of thing, it's mostly online, you can go anywhere. Right. And so then once you kind of understand your competition, you have to understand how am I different? How am I different from everyone else out there? So,
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
I have a hard time, how am I, well, I call myself a coach, but I am a different because of my, well, it's kind of my marketing, but it's all about dreams. So, that's different in that it's not, there's a lot of life coaches out there, but, so that's how I see that I'm different.
Are there other life coaches out there that focus on dreams?
In the world, yeah, none that I know of locally. They might add that as an offering, kind of like, there's a lot of people that do Reiki, but there's nobody does exactly the way you do it, right? So that's kind of the same thing, but yes, I've heard people talk about it's part of their, a lot of people include it, and psychologists include it, therapists include it, but it's not the focus. So I think I'm more niched in that way.
And so that's important to notate. That's important for your marketing, but it's also important as you compare yourself to other life coaches, as you compare your pricing to other life coaches. How is it different, and does that difference affect pricing at all? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
They're all packed, the ways we all get to the same thing, right? We all get to the place where the person is, but we will look at, I think the market looks at it differently, but yeah, pricing might be different. And I find that that's what I call myself is what intrigues people. So that's why I say it, and I met another lady who was a coach, and she says something and she says it and people are intrigued by it, but then I had a one-on-one with her and we're basically doing the same thing. It's the way we get there.
A little bit different words that you use, but it's the same.
So because it attracts the market that we feel that's our calling to, right?
Yeah.
The way we bring value to the marketplace.
There are other networks out there, Nikki, right? How is GOL different than?
So different. Well, it's, I think the uniqueness is because we are a foundation of community first and building the community. So it didn't start as a networking group, but we expanded and organically grew into a very authentic networking group that's like some say took the good parts of BNI or different pieces, and we really have just kind of created together collectively a really beautiful collective and collaboration. And so it really is a two-part, because we have our seekers and we have our professionals. And I haven't seen anything out there like it. I mean, there might be meetup groups, and there might be just networking groups, but I haven't seen where there's both and we come belly to belly in the same space. And I think probably because there's a lot of work that goes into creating that, right? That space for two people. So I don't really see competition. Like there's some people trying to duplicate what we do because it is new. So there is some duplication out there. But we have the secret recipe. We have all the magical people that are getting attracted to this group. So
Well,
that's my mindset around it.
Yeah, you do things a little bit different. You're more active, I think, than just about any other group, and especially in the variety of things that you do. Well, there are costs that are associated with that.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know, when you do the social at Potter Wines, there's a cost to that. And when you rent this room, there's a cost to that. And so doing all of these different approaches, you can't directly compare yourself to any other networking group because your costs are probably going to be higher. And so if your costs are going to be higher, your prices have to be higher, right? So that's why it's important to look at how am I different than the other people that are out there.
I have a question. Why is that important? Why are we looking for the difference?
Because you're going to end up comparing your prices to everyone else, and so you have to compare. Are you comparing apples to apples, or is it apples to oranges? So in my business, there are other MSPs out there, managed service IT providers, right? There's hundreds of them out there, and when I started my business, and really for a good 8-10 years, I was pricing myself based on what everybody else did. What I never did was this exercise that showed what I delivered was significantly more. We bring so many more tools to the table than most MSPs. We provide a different level of service, but we were charging the same. Our costs were higher because we're bringing more tools. Our costs were higher. Our revenue was the same. And so the business was struggling. It was barely profitable. And I couldn't figure out why. For years, I couldn't figure out, what am I doing wrong? I just need more clients. I just need more. Go do some more sales and marketing. We need to have more clients, and the profit was still almost zero because I didn't recognize what I was doing different.
So it's not necessarily that it costs you more to do it.
It does.
Because it does sometimes.
My cost of goods sold is higher.
But if your cost of goods is not different, if it's intellectual property, for example, it's not different. Cost is not, physical cost is not different. Then
Then it may not be included.
but that was my big thing, because
Because you have to know that going in.
Yeah.
When you're trying to develop your strategy, you need to understand what pieces you're playing.
and it's for marketing, because everyone wants to know why you're different.
Absolutely, for marketing. Eventually, it all comes down to marketing.
What reminds me of the new Mr. Clean car wash that just opened and had their free car wash yesterday. And in their sales pitch, they realized a lot of people were coming through that the other guy does free hand towels, like the wet hand towels to clean and dust the inside and dry the outside. And so they started realizing, oh, people want that. We don't have it. So what's our next angle? And they came up with, well, we're nationwide, and with this package, you could go anywhere nationwide. And when I got done, I was like, I sure like those wet hand towels to dry, you know what I mean? To, clean my dash and dust everything. So it really was a value, and what differentiates like the mat cleaners and cleaning the inside versus not having.
But there's a cost to that because now you have to clean your towels. You have to have the things that clean the mats and all of that. And that's an added cost. And if you don't include that in the pricing,
Correct. That makes sense.
you're gonna go down.
Mhm.
Right, so, yeah, so maybe there needs to be an additional question, how am I different and what does that cost on here?
Yeah,
You know,
and I was thinking too, just, I know we may be talking about this, but I could answer, when you asked Nikki, I could answer Nikki's question a whole lot easier than I can answer my own. I can, and better than she answered it, I can tell you all the reasons why she's different.
Yeah.
She was struggling a little bit, you know, I mean, she wasn't struggling, but
Yeah.
the thing she said was that, you know, like, I could tell who the things that she does that makes her business so much different and better than others. And the cost that's involved in that, just because if you love somebody, you care about them, you're part of their business, you have a different view. Cause I have a view as a consumer, I have a view, you know what I'm saying? She doesn't have that view of her business. So I think these are great questions to ask your customers, or ask, you know, some of the, you know, like that one especially.
yeah,
That's a great survey.
Yeah.
Survey questions.
Yeah,
And like, I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat as GOL, like I'm a naturopathic doctor, but I harvest all of my own
yeah,
medicine.
oh my God,
Right,
yeah.
and so, but to most naturopaths, they buy these, like most, I'm gonna judge a little bit here, and put people into a box, but like, they get the high-end equipment, right? So people spend a ton of money as most naturopaths on equipment, but I spend my time, right? And so then it's hard for me to show the value that my visit is worth the same or more as somebody who's coming in for something that gives immediate results and is a really expensive piece of equipment that they have to pay off, right? And so that's hard for me. And then my comparison of competitors is insurance-based practices. Well, that's a completely different model, right? And they get paid through insurance. So when people like look at my prices, sometimes they're like, there's no way in the world I would pay for that. But then that they do come in, they value it, and most people stick around. But that's the hard part for me in working with this competition, and is people don't realize how much work it takes to create a tea blend for them, right? Or a tincture, or like how much time that takes for me in my hands, right? So it's fascinating of like, I'm so unique, I'm so different, but to the public, I don't look to be that way.
Yeah.
Right?
And-
You know what I mean? So it's.
and a lot of people don't value your time. And so it's like, well, you don't have the piece of equipment, you know,
Right.
and, you know, you don't have to pay somebody to go get this stuff, you're going to get it yourself.
Comes down
So
to image.
But
and
But
your
their
customer.
tea don't talk to you from the cupboard like hers do.
True. Her stuff works. That's the difference.
Well, it's direct consumer, it's like that, you know, it's that fresh harvest, it's that. This is specifically for you, there's so much energy infused in it, and again, you know, how do you, it's a marketing thing. It's a marketing thing.
The opening ground of botanicals, it's like I did this little spreadsheet that we're gonna do at the bottom here, and like my price of tinctures should probably be 4 to 5 times higher than the market. Nobody's gonna come in and spend $50 on a 1 ounce tincture, and they can just go buy one, right? So like this
Ask
is a
doTERRA and Young Living about that.
difficult for me to figure out
Yeah,
how to market it in the way of like, this is all from the grounded botanicals, they made it for a reason, right? But I mean, it's so much better medicine, in my opinion, than anything you get from the store.
well, that's what I'm saying,
That's the
like,
hard part.
that's what doTERRA and Young Living did, is by their type of marketing was and they raised the prices of essential oils super high.
Yeah.
Because of the way they harvested in their processes, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it can be, you know, how many people buy from those two companies?
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, it's just fascinating.
I would never get my essential oils at Walmart.
Well, I think it goes back to surveying your customers. So we do this in GSD Mondays consistently every week. And she comes up with something and I go, you're not charging enough. And I'm a very frugal person. And so when I'm saying that, then, you know, and we go back to our previous last fall's Fireside Chat about KPIs, key performance indicators, and working backwards. And this one as well is a really great one. So when we're talking about pricing, like your labs or your tinctures, we've had this conversation a lot, is your drive time, your gas, the processing. You're just talking about your glycerin going up. And so making sure that all that cost is wrapped in, so your time is worth it. On top of just, your stuff is a much higher quality than anybody else. Like, you can't get this anywhere in the valley. I don't know anybody that's going out in the woods and harvesting directly, very energetically appropriate as well. The plants that want to go, Who does that?
Very few wildcrafters throughout the United States.
Well, isn't that a differentiation, how you're
Totally.
on a higher class than they are, and that's why you can charge more.
Right.
Yeah, just the marketing,
Pure.
right? Yeah, it is.
I do too. Wildcrafting, I love that terminology too. And yeah, for sure.
I think that, not to go too far off, but that also just using you as an example is people want to learn how to do what you do. And we've had this conversation too with not having bitterness, right? And your time. And I don't want to say that in a bad way, but teaching people what you do and make sure that that area is protected. So we talk about the 4-H's, hunting, huckleberries, hot springs, and herbs. Right. Those are very special places, right? And so when do you take people out? Where do you take people out? Are you charging for that? Are you utilizing them, to help you process? They gotta put the time in first. This is all part of that, part of the growth of another stream of income for you too. I think people would pay you to go out and learn what you do. I would pay money to spend time to do what you're doing. I'm a frugal person. Like
Well,
that,
Yeah,
you know what I
accepted.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
And see, this is the kind of thing I think like, I love, I know we're getting way off topic and I
No, it's fine.
apologize.
I love
But
this part.
we like workshopping something like this, like putting someone like Dana's business in the spotlight. And I know we've done some of this at GSD and stuff, but putting someone and saying, okay, I need help. And having people come into a room together to give this kind of feedback from this vantage point, because that is valuable. We can't see around our own corners because we came into our businesses for a reason. And certain things have worked and it's yummy and lovely, and then other things are not working and they drive us crazy and keep us awake at night. And we're not making enough money, or I doubt some people might be making so much money, but they hate what they're doing. I don't know. There might be some of those, and they need to scale and they need to hire new people. And how did you do all that? And that's a problem. So having these type of workshops where literally it's like, okay, we're going to talk about Dana's business for 20 minutes. We're going to ask all these questions, and help her, give her some feedback, and then we do that with each other's businesses. If we've been bringing in people that have had experience with that business, for example, or know that person personally, or have, I've always wished you would do this. I never thought about that. Why didn't you tell me that? I think that's valuable. So I'm just sitting here with all kinds of ideas that I could totally derail this entire meeting for Dana.
Go ahead and make a
Because I
list,
just,
feel free.
because I love her, and I don't want to come in and tell her how to run her business, but maybe.
But I
But some of the information I have might stick with her, might be valuable to her in how she wants to formulate what she's doing. And if we don't share it, because it does sound like, well, I don't want to tell her how to run a business. I just think that if she did this, it'd be kind of cool.
But the flip side, like kind of what you said about with GOL Network too, it's like that outsider's perspective of seeing that value. It's really hard as the business owner to reflect like the value's there, right? Like you guys see it, but sometimes I'm like, well, is it? Like, are you sure? Like, are people gonna land it well? And you're like, yeah, my team calls to me. And I'm like, oh, that's validating.
I'm a
right?
people. She's
Yeah.
the, but we're like,
So it just helps like keep that
Yeah,
going,
yeah.
So I appreciate it.
and I'm saying it because, I would value that too, but, because it's really, really easy for me to look outward.
Yeah.
And then I'm listening too, as I'm saying it, because a lot of what we're saying applies to me and what I'm thinking. So I'm actually
Give
listening
yourself
to
some of your own
myself,
medicine.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I want to apply to my business too. Great idea. How come you're not doing that? So I think that's really cool. So.
So another thing to think about, we've kind of touched on it a little bit through this conversation, who are your indirect competitors? So when you're pricing, you have to understand that there are other options. So, naturopath is easy. You kind of are the other option. Most people will go Western medicine, and cover it with insurance. I don't.
YouTube and Google.
YouTube and Google. There you go.
I mean, seriously, people think they can just,
Yeah.
they can just get their answers by YouTubing and Googling it.
That's big.
I'm trying to understand who an indirect competitor for me would be.
So what is it that you deliver? Like what's the result of what you
The
deliver?
results are that people weren't from the inside out, and they release trauma, they release wounds, pain, physical pain, emotional pain. And then they start being able to see with more clarity and focus.
So you're in big pharma.
Oh, pills,
Alright.
okay, my direct competition is
Self-help,
pills.
sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
alcohol, you know, you can drown your sorrows away. You just
Food.
drink enough food. You know, what are the other things that people can do to satisfy
That's great marketing.
the problem? You know?
It's a great marketing tool. Like, what you, as just sorry, I like got like a burst of idea, but like, are you using this? Or it could be a posing question, like, do you wanna stop using pills and alcohol and food to, drown your sorrows? Or do you wanna go directly to what the root cause is and what's going on in your life? I can help you with that.
And when you start thinking about your pricing, right? There's a cost associated with pills, there's a cost associated with alcohol. One of the biggest indirect competitors out there is actually doing nothing. So how many people, because of cost or
Right.
whatever, they just absolutely do nothing?
Or would it be, I turn it around and say, how much is your depression costing you?
Exactly.
To do it that way.
Yeah.
That'd be really good.
So you've got to understand who those indirect competitors are,
This
because
is a good question.
they're gonna try to take your clients from you, the indirect ones.
I think this roundtable,
This is good.
this is good.
This
Each
is
of
really
us,
good.
let's see if we can come up with. We have ideas where we go around.
Well,
with each other.
I love how you found that, because she was thinking in terms of, okay, I don't know who my indirect, because I do this, I'm a coach, I do this. But when you asked her that defining question, how do you help? How do you do this? And then you can see, how do people take care of that if they don't have you?
Right.
How do people take care of networking if they don't have you? Like, where do they go? What would they, how would they meet people to grow their business and do their marketing and find a tribe so they're not lonely as an
What's the
entrepreneur?
pain points?
Yeah, pain points, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, and how do you try to
That's an indirect market.
take care of that pain?
Yeah. You
What
take care of
are,
the pain, what is your business?
I would say, far as the professionals, there's two consistent pain points. It doesn't matter how successful you are, because we have a big span in the group. Consistently, they want to find people to collaborate with and refer to that they can trust, know, love, and trust. And then the other one is how to market themselves to the appropriate seekers, because this is a holistic. I don't really use alternative, but it's not your typical Western medicine, which is wonderful. This is what we want. But still marketing. So let's use somebody that might use different light therapies or different machines and modalities that are a little bit more new in the market, but not, fringing on the FDA because you can cure cancer with something, right? You can't label that. So how do you market that you have this amazing natural healing product, like a plant that could help with cancer, but you can't label it that? But how do we do that within our group, be able to communicate this healing power of the anti-inflammatory and antioxidant? Yeah, whatever you can use, right? So that is like the biggest two: referral and collaboration. And then how do you market yourself to the right market, the people that are seeking the services? And we have both. We have a community that comes in on a consistent basis, circulating through these seekers. So that, I would say that same question, like, when people have dreams, what are their pain points? Because when I met you, I was taking my dream literally. The very first day I met you, over 2 years ago. And when I shared the dream I had of my daughter's legs getting cut off and she's bleeding all over the place in a parking lot, and you talked me through it, it wasn't a literal interpretation. It was a very vivid dream, very frightening. And you said her legs got like cut out from underneath her. What are you going through? This when I was looking for a school for her.
I remember.
And it wasn't, I was trying to find something outside of public school. And that was like, oh, This isn't her getting hit by a car and, you know, dying in front of me.
Yeah. It's
And
taking our legs out. And that, when she did that look on her face, that, oh, that makes so much sense. That's why I do what I do, clarity, you know, oh, I get it now. That's what lights me up, is because now we've found what it means. So people think they can get that on YouTube and Google. They think, oh, my daughter's legs being cut off, and then they're gonna get an answer and go, oh,
nope.
I gotta watch her, I can't let her go anywhere, I have to be really careful. You know, and it might mean, I mean, it might there's so many ways, but,
Context.
yeah.
But it's your gift because you intuitively also read people as part of your natural gift, right? You truly listen to what the emotion, the different tones of what people are saying, right? You can't put that in AI. You can't put that. We've had a whole thing on AI and Fireside Chat, right? We've done that. But when it comes to this kind of service, sorry, AI doesn't have it. Google doesn't have it. So
Right.
you build that authentic relationship with that person to be able to give them clarity and also pull away that fear veil, right? That fear that's wrapped around this dream. And for me on that personal, I thought that I was gonna have to like make sure Britain was careful in a parking lot and not get ran over. But all that did actually gave me validation of what direction I was already heading with her. You know, and it was like, oh, and then I didn't have another horrible dream, right? We've had interviews about this, is helping people sleep better, right? So now when people aren't having nightmares and not having this fear and get clarity, now they're sleeping better. So now they're healing better. So you could validate that. I mean, this is a collaboration waiting to happen, right? You're not sleeping well because of your dreams. Oh wait, Dr. Hannah can help send over here.
Yeah. And, yeah, and that, yeah, thank you. Did you notice I wrote down everything you said? Thank you. I'm learning, keeping all the goal here. This is great, because thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, it does help to hear it from the person, from another perspective. So, because we're sometimes too
Okay,
close.
coaching calls. What if you did like package coaching calls, like?
Yeah, I do that, and I'm branching into, I'm doing, you talked about the sleep stuff, I'm doing, infant sleep stuff now too. I'm studying that right now. Infant sleep and school. It's not gonna be sleep training, because sleep training has got a bad connotation about sleep training for children, babies, but
I've read lots of books on that. My children are colicky. So.
yeah. So, but doing it, it's similar to that, it's a different method. So I'm studying that coaching method right now to add to my adult sleeping as well as infant sleeping, and then the classes, I'm doing classes and workshops standalone.
But hear what Nikki just said. I read every single book on that. That's like the perfect place for you to come in, because if somebody can get that specialized work of how their infant can sleep better, it's way better than the book can ever provide. Right? Like that to me is
Then I
like,
take that intuitive, and that,
Exactly.
and that's,
you're
yeah.
using your superpowers with it.
So that's why, because I have been deciding, okay, I need more offerings. People don't know what I do. I've kind of been a secret business, you know, but I've been trying to figure it out, you know, I've just been playing with it, really. I like to play, so I've been playing with dreams, I've been playing with, and I haven't really been taking it seriously. And I know that you were going through, not necessarily to that degree, but I know you ramped up, you sat down and said, look, what am I doing here? You know, and you made some major decisions, and I think that's kind of where I am right now. And you know, people need to know what I do, and then they also need to know how I can help them.
Right.
Setting the
There needs to be-
expectation.
And this is what, these are the levels that feel right to me. So that's been my process. So this is perfectly timed, and this chat's great. This is awesome. Keep going. We got more cogs and overhead and other things to look at here on this page. I don't want to derail you too much, because we only have half hour in the room.
So the next piece is really understanding your customers, because you're not gonna be able to charge more than what your customers can afford, right? And so you have to understand who your customers are. We've gone through understanding competitors, who they are, the indirect competitors, all of that, but who are your customers? Who are your clients? Who is your product actually for? And this is where I think one of the greatest exercises you can do is building that persona, and the easiest way to do it these days, I think, is if you were your best customer, what would your Facebook page look like? What would be on your Facebook page if you were your best customer? When you think about your best customer, the one that fits you, you love working with them. They're able to afford what it is that you do. What would their Facebook page, what would that Facebook page look like? And fill out that profile, because that really gives you an idea of who it is that you're looking for, right? And then you have to have a conversation about those people, and maybe you take price out of it to start with. Who do you love working with? Who makes you feel really good?
I love working with realtors because I do energy clearings for houses, offices and land, especially for listings that aren't moving. Cause I know how to close them. I know how to work with intention and help them clear that energy so that they can sell that problem listing.
Okay.
It's cool.
I'm actually advertising on that right now.
So
That's really cool.
That is really cool. That's a great niche, different niche.
that has to go into your pricing decisions and your strategy, right? Because maybe your pricing has to be a little bit different when the market is bad. You know, maybe it needs to go up. when the market is bad. The demand is greater.
Can't sell, it's like,
And so that needs to go into your pricing decision. Can they afford what it is that you're doing? You know, a realtor, I've tried to offer services to realtors before, and you know, our fees are month, they're the same month to month. It's different than most. How are we different? That's different than most IT companies. We don't do hourly work. Realtors hated it because they don't get paid regularly.
Until it
They-
closes.
And they don't know how much they're making this month compared to next month. And so realtors did not like our model. Where most companies loved our model, realtors didn't like it because it was their revenue was too up and down. And our expense was too straight. So, you know, understand that is your pricing gonna fit the realtor? If that's one of your great customers, how necessary.
Yeah, no, I just wanted, you know, I know a lot of realtors, and I know where you can meet a lot of realtors if you wanna. Yeah, I will, after.
Well, and realtors that are in our group or outside of our group that are like in our Facebook group too.
There's a lot of realtors and making, yeah.
All you have to do is, who are the realtors in this group? Like in the GOL Facebook group, it's like to ask, 'cause you know they're gonna be like.
It's ask that question on it, yeah.
And
Because there's a lot of them that are doing this, but then they're also realtor, they're not marketing their realtor business through GOL. We can do that in there?
Yeah,
She'll
you can,
approve it.
yeah, so you can self-promote your business as a professional member in our Facebook group. But anybody can ask questions within the group. And so I can ask who's an acupuncturist, and if you ask you can ask that too. Who are all the Reiki energy practitioners in this group? And you will get, that happened once. People that I never even knew were in our group were answering on that call.
Cool. This is great.
It's just people are watching, they're always watching, and I think there's a lot of people that aren't even in our Facebook group that are very open to these practices.
Well, and I've got to say, like, I was very resistant to this whole idea of an ideal customer profile, ICP kind of thing. But then I actually slowed down and thought about, like, who do I want to have walk in my door, right? I like the idea of a Facebook page, but it was
You
like,
thought of me, right?
you were part of that. Yeah, you really were. But no, it really was like, what do I want them to say? How do I want them to view medicine? Like, and
Yeah.
I put that out there, and I swear that is one of the most like successful things I did, was realizing who I wanted to work with. And then, you know, law of attraction starts happening, and they start coming in your door, and then they refer their whole family, and then their family refers this and this and this, and it spreads like a wildfire, just because you kind of know who your niche is, like who you want to work with, right? So really that's slowing down and actually writing it out. What do they look like? How do they speak? Where did they come from? Right? Like most of the people I work with aren't from Idaho because they probably left something because they were so unhappy with blank, right? I'm really good for those people that are unhappy with care that they've had before, right? And then they're open to new ideas and possibilities, not the people that are indoctrinated into the Western medicine system that are like dipping their toe, like, well, that's really expensive. They'll come, right?
Does my
But
insurance cover it?
does my insurance cover it, right? If they get, but that's part of my phone consult, I can almost guarantee they're not gonna book or come back after the first one. But it's those people that are frustrated and upset and have some kind of medical, story or history with their family with a medical story. And it's like, then they're so open and willing and grateful for the time, for the medicine. And man, I'm getting shivers thinking about it, but man, so much shifted. And my other ideal customer is nurses. I treat so many nurses now because they're so sick of the system that they actually want to help themselves. And then now most of them want to go become naturopathic doctors, which is like the most rewarding thing you could hear, right? But I never would have thought to slow down enough to think about it from that perspective. And I mean, anybody that's listening, like just do it, like really, because it changed everything in my practice.
And one thing you may learn is who you want to serve doesn't have the money to pay your prices, at least where they are now. And so that's where you can start making some decisions. How do you reduce the price? Well, you find ways to reduce your expenses. It's one way. And maybe there are ways that you can produce something that is a very low expense. For instance, you see it pretty often with life coaches or business coaches or whatever. A person can't afford, the person that you want to work with can't afford one-to-one. And so what have coaches done? They've started creating groups. And so yeah, you're not getting that one-to-one service.
Yeah.
But I can offer this at a lower price because we're bringing a bunch of people in together. Now we have 20 people in the group. You're able to get a level of service at a fraction of the cost. And so that's where you need to understand who is your customer.
Yeah.
And can they afford it? How necessary is it for them? How much money do they make? Can they afford what it is that I'm offering? Do I need to make something a little bit different?
I found mine's to a timing thing, because, sometimes a person is interested in their dreams after they've had a dream. And so it's not like they want to be on a monthly thing.
Right.
I've done packages where they can use them over a course of time. That's been working somewhat successfully, but I'm doing just that. I'm adding more things to bring awareness to the dream, understanding why it's important, why dream work is important, or how it leads to better sleep, and understanding the integration of the conscious and subconscious, and becoming more awake while we're in this dream we call life, right? All of that process, but that all is happening in bite-sized chunks of classes that are less expensive. So I'm offering a broader perspective of things, so people can come in at whatever price point they feel comfortable with, and then it's marketing other. And those, once they're created, they just run, right? It's just a little bit of marketing on top of that. So that's the structure I'm using, because that's what I've found, is most people don't. I'm not going to get someone. I had one abundant dreamer I worked with for 2 years, who, but she never 7 dreams a night, so, and every day I was talking to her practically, and that was different. That's she's rare, very, very rare. And most people, they'll rent
those people?
She found me. She was my second person I talked to. Someone referred her to me. She was really cool, and yeah, but most people will see me and they'll say, "Oh, I've been thinking about you. I had the weirdest dream," but they've not called me. They've not reached out to me. So the awareness is different. I need providing more to create. People want my service. They just don't reach it. And I know you can probably hear that too. We all hear that, right? We all hear it. Yeah.
Could be where we're more like the regular habits, right? Sleep habits. That could be something that could be part of your service, people that are having regular difficulty with sleep, and it maybe not be like a memory recall of a dream, or maybe it's a technique to remember, more like you did the liminal dreaming, and so it could be like the binaural beats or adding in
Yeah, just
frequency or
continue, yeah, I've got all those, yeah.
so teaching like healthy habits with sleep, you know, maybe offering something like that, that's more of a daily.
I'm gonna be spending a lot more on the sleep side.
Oh, that's like a learned experience or collaboration, right? So you could have your herbs that help with that, and you have like more of the sound and the meditation. Sorry,
She gets excited. But there's a myriad of things, yeah. I'm in a super creative state right now, where it's like, this is painful to be here, but this is super important. I knew it was important to be here, because I need to be home and put this stuff down, because everything is coming, if you ever get that where it's just like, it's just oozing out of me all over the place, and I'm like in a beautiful mind moment, and I'm writing on my windows, and I'm writing everywhere.
I
And
have a
I'm
shower
there.
Oh my gosh.
So hurry, so I can get back to.
So, we gotta give you a little more pain, and now I remember what that product column was for. But.
You had me removed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oops.
no.
All right, so this is the exercise. This grid down here is the exercise. It is painful. And once again, we got into discussion. I think it's difficult to do if you don't have a profit and loss statement in front. So I don't, are you familiar? Is everybody familiar with the profit and loss statement? The profit and loss statement, when you're looking at pricing, when you're looking at the health of your business, you need to be looking at your profit and loss very often, or more than once a month, right? You need to know what your profit and loss is, and it's because it lays all of these numbers out. Your expenses need to be well classified, so you know the difference between cost of goods sold and other expenses. Then you have to define what your time is worth. So if it's hourly, then define what that is, what that hourly amount is. So if you're going to spend 8 hours on a product, then how much does that cost? How much of that is coming back to you? If you have employees, how much does the payroll cost? And then your profit. Always, always, always leave room for profit. And I'm going to dig into that a little bit more right now, but I encourage you to take each of the products that you have and fill out these lines for each of those and determine what your total price should be. And then you can make decisions, right? Where do you need to go? But we have, 15 minutes here. And I want to talk about profit. Because for a lot of people, I think especially in this group, anyone who loves to give their gift, profit becomes kind of a dirty word. Almost a little scared of profit. Is it really okay to profit off of something that is helping others? It's intended to help others. It's a gift that I have to give. Should I be making profit off?
Isn't that a mindset?
It's the mindset. It's the mindset behind your business, and mindset. I mean, y'all know, mindset is the fundamental thing to everything, right? It doesn't matter what you do. If your mindset is off, you're going to struggle. And so if your mindset is off about profit, about pricing, you think it's too high, it's going to be difficult. And so I want to open it up. I mean, y'all are really the experts on mindset. And have you ever thought of it from the profit standpoint? Have you ever thought that this gift that I have to give, I can give to more if I'm making profit? If I'm putting 25% of my revenue away, and I'm creating a war chest, and I can go to war against the ails of whatever's ailing people. if you make some profit and you can get one of those fancy machines and it complements very well everything else that you're doing, and you can give someone maybe some immediate result and then help with, you can fill it in with the tinctures and everything else, but you can give someone the immediate help. How gratifying is that for you? For someone to walk in a certain place and walk out so much better? How gratifying.
Hardin said it really well. He's like, the gratification from a patient is like taking a whole month's worth of Prozac. Like, you're just so happy, right? Like, that's why we do what we do, right? But I think a mindset that I've gotten from Fireside Chats is money gives you the opportunity to see more people, right? And so if you think of it in that realm, like, I say thank you to every person that pays me, because now I get the gift of sharing more with people, right? That gives me more time in the forest. That gives me more time to harvest plants. It gives me more time to make marketing things, right? So it's a thank you for contributing to my vision, right? Versus like, do I deserve that, right? Was that too high? Did I just rob them of their lunch, their this, their, like, you can have that
All those
negative.
things start popping in your head.
But the flip side is like, you're supporting my dream. Thank you, right? And so like, that's really where I try and maintain for the most part now is looking at money as the ability to grow, right? And reach more. So that's
Well,
my
I
hope
think
with
too, like with your clients, you might get, oh, they can't afford that. Now, are you choosing what they can and can't afford?
Yeah.
If they haven't voiced it, now you're choosing for them, and that's not our job to choose what other people can and can't afford.
That's why I made the package. It's offered to everybody. More people take it than don't. What's your first do?
I remember.
And I'm grateful, like, that's the gratitude, right? They're paying ahead. It's like a CSA box. You're paying a farmer ahead of time saying, thank you for doing what you do, right? Like, it's like the same idea. For me, it's such a gift because I just can't give it.
When I went through this exercise for my business, it doubled the price of what we charge. But I had a really good understanding because I went through this exercise. And I actually have to thank COVID for that, because I was able to stop long enough and really put all of this together and spend some time. And I realized here's what my price needs to be, and it gave me confidence behind that price. I was able to get in the right mindset. And our company has grown 5 times over, charging twice as much as what we used to charge.
I think we should go through this matrix, like take an example and go through it.
Okay. Yeah. So this is where it's a lot better if we have a profit and loss statement, but cost of goods sold, is there a product that you have, since you're kind of in the middle of this right now, is there a product that you have that you know how much goes into that product, what it costs to go into that product?
I would say let's do like a 1 ounce tincture blend.
Okay.
I think I would do a pretty good job.
All right, so 1 ounce tincture blend. Let's think about just the specific the things that you have to buy to put into that 1 ounce tincture blend. What all do you have to buy?
Well, I mean, the tincture, I have to get the labels, I have to, I mean, the alcohol is what I mean for that. The glass jar, the understanding it, oh, that's a question. Those are probably I mean, the herb itself.
Right.
We'll get the herb, which indirectly is the gas and the time and that doesn't cost. Yeah.
Well,
That's it?
No, they're part of it.
yeah, I would consider that part of the comp. Yeah, because it's part of specifically what it's. Yeah.
So would she break out the herb first? Could you do that? Because like, let's say you're making a tincture, and you collect herbs, you do that, and then there's. That's right. This could go so deep, down such a deep well.
It goes very deep, because
It's
what you have to do is take, so you're talking about a 1 ounce tincture. Well, how much alcohol did you buy when you buy alcohol?
By 3 gallons.
All right, so you bought 3 gallons. Now you have to divide
$257.
$257. How much is that per ounce?
Oh, I
And
have this.
that's the number you have to have here, right?
So that's easy, that's the easiest one in the jar.
Yeah, the jar, you're gonna know exactly how much that is.
What's the jar? Let's just throw a price.
I would say let's say $2. $2 for a half-gallon jar.
And then the herb.
You see, the herb is where it starts getting,
That's the
'cause
cost.
you
It's
you go
free.
get your own.
It's in the forest, yeah,
Right. So
Okay.
now you've got your time that goes into that.
correct.
Yeah, so it's.
Let's
it's
say I
gonna do
spend
cost
about
here.
$20 on gas to
Right.
get me there and back.
But
And
then
how
you-
many tinctures are you gonna make on that?
The yield is different depending on the plant,
Right.
so then I have to look at my calculations of what I push out versus what I push in.
Could she come up with like every time I go harvest,
Maybe $1.
an average
Yes.
of what it costs for what you bring in? And then what you do with it, because I know sometimes you make tea, sometimes you make tinctures, and it's just kind of when for $20 worth of gas
That's my
and
average.
$5 and 5 hours of my time.
Yeah.
This is pretty much what, although time goes over there.
Yeah, I'm gonna create all of this.
What's your alcohol? Just like,
257 for 3 gallons. So about, what's that?
64 ounces per gallon, right? Times 3 is 192, so 357 divided by 192 is $1.85.
85 gallons.
Did I do that right?
Sounds great.
$2.
I do it in, I do my math a little differently, but I could see breaking it down further would be fun.
It's $357. Yeah, that sounds right. Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Okay,
Right.
so call basically there.
So you've got $2, $4, $5 there, right? That's gonna go into every tincture. So if you charge $5 per tincture, you're covering no overhead, you're covering no time, and you're covering no profit.
Right.
Right, what did you start charging when you first created tinctures? What was your?
My original price was 20.
So,
Now it's 35.
Yeah.
It's been 35 for a while, but I think it needs to go up more.
all right, so overhead, that's all your rent and everything, and here's, this part gets complicated.
Yeah.
How do you put that into a 1 ounce jar? And it's really about doing your averages. You have to look at, okay, your overhead is usually looked at per year. All right. And then you have to break that down into, if you can, how many tinctures do you sell per year? And so, that's roughly your cost per tincture. Now you have other things that you're selling, and so you have to include that. So how much of your business is selling tinctures? What percentage of it?
That's a good thought. I'd have to look back on that. I split it in, so I say my overhead is a quarter of the rent of my apothecary. Because I sell 4 basic different types of
Okay.
things. That's kind of how I broke it down, but that makes more sense. to me.
Yeah, so if you have $10,000 in costs, 2,500 of that is for tinctures. Now, how many tinctures do you sell per year? If it's 2,500, then it's $1 per tincture for your overhead.
Oof, that's a good way to include this.
And this exercise helps you justify your costs in your mind too. You're never gonna be able
That's
to,
the mindset.
yeah, it
Tremendously.
helps the mindset, because you're not gonna go tell your customer, well, I can show you exactly how much it goes into
Right.
this.
Let me show you my calculations.
Show you, but you, in our own mind, when we justify, we're like, why am I not making any money? And you're like, oh, look how much it's costing me to just do this, Do I wanna take it, do I wanna take less profit, or I wanna take less, cut the costs in my jars, cut the cost in my time, because you're valuing your time based on hour, right?
Yeah, I mean, how much time does it take?
Knowing what plan it is makes it a little different, but I do between 3 and 5 hours. And I charge myself,
That's to
For a
go,
batch,
that's to go
for a
get it,
batch,
yeah.
bring it, harvest it,
Yeah.
prepare it, all of it.
Yeah.
3 to 5 hours.
Per tincture,
per plant,
Per-
yeah,
And
because
how
I'm
many
doing
tinctures?
multiple plants. If I go out to the forest, I'll probably bring back like between 5 and
Yeah.
20 things.
How many
Okay.
tinctures can you make off per plant?
It depends on the weight of the plant and then it's.
So we had an average for fun.
I'd say it's usually about a 50% yield. So if I'm doing a half gallon, which is the size of that, I'm probably gonna get a quarter of a gallon of tincture.
Which would come to how many 1 ounce tinctures?
Uh,
64, 32, 15 and a half.
15 ounces, so that's 15 tinctures.
There we go, 15.
Right. That's 3 to 5 hours. So how much is your time worth?
I charge myself, I pay myself now, thank you
Good.
very much for that. It's $75 an hour.
So 75 times 5. So much.
300,
375,
4 is 25.
375.
75, 75 is 150, 300.
375.
375, 35?
And then divided by 15.
Yeah, divided by
Oh, with a
15.
75, yeah.
375 divided by 15.
25.
Told you this was a penny.
How much? 25.
So $25 per tincture in your time, and then your profit. So
25%.
and remember what you started your price at your tincture at.
Yeah.
$20. All right, so your profit. Now I would suggest making 25% profit. on
That's,
everything.
I do 25. That's cool, that's validated.
And for me personally, 12.5% of that comes back to ownership.
Yeah.
And so you pay yourself for your time, you also invest in yourself for the business, because there's a lot of time that you spend growing the business that's not directly related to the goods and services. The other 12.5% goes into your war chest. So you save money, you put away cash, and you start finding the new things that you can add to your business to make it better. Right, so if you're doing, if you need to end up with 25% profit, did we figure out the overhead per year? We didn't quite figure that out.
So 25%.
Oh, well, we have to add in overhead.
Yeah.
So plus overhead. Right?
Yeah, and it's about,
And then plus 25% of that. Yeah.
80, let's just say it's $80. Let's say your overhead's low, $80 plus 25%.
You know, it's $80, but we have to break that down into per tincture.
Mm,
25.
No, she already broke it down. It's $5 per
Per 1 ounce,
Yeah.
plus $25
for her
per
time,
tincture
per
per time.
and then a little bit for overhead. What's it? So that equaled 30. Okay,
don't
30.
know.
So
So
that,
it's 30, and then overhead, let's say overhead, it's $5 per tincture? Or do you think it's more than that?
Let's just go with 5.
Just for numbers,
Yeah.
like, you know, like she'll break it
so
out.
if it comes out to 5, now you're at $35.
Plus 25%.
Yeah, and now you need to add another 25.
Plus like 50, almost 50.
So your profit, 25% is of 35 is what?
875.
So you're gonna add 875 to just 40 to profit.
Right, so that's
$44
probably
sold.
where, if just taking these numbers, that's probably about where you need to be. So again, this is, it tells you more about your business, because let's say you finish all of this and you're at $75. And you're pretty confident you're not gonna have many people that are gonna spend $75 on it. So where do you change it? You know, cost of goods sold, you're not gonna be able to drop that much. Can you change how much time you spend on it? You know, do you start sacrificing how much your time is worth? And you cut your overhead, right? So that's where this exercise now starts telling you,
The truth.
here's where I need to focus. Here's where I've got to get better about what it is that I'm doing, change my customers, whatever it may be. You know, for my company, we changed our customers. We realized who we were marketing and selling to, they couldn't afford what we were doing, and we couldn't afford to do it for less. And
What
so.
do you do, by the way?
We do IT services. We provide IT departments for small businesses. So 20 or more employees. We provide.
What
those
do you
to
do?
them.
I'm thinking of doing like a
I've done that
customer
for a very
markup
long
or.
time.
No, but you said
selling
you
to the
did,
public.
you
So the
changed
public
your
is more
customers,
expensive.
what were what was
Yeah,
the difference?
we would work with smaller
If you buy
customers.
Fireside for me as a
and-
patient,
And
it's
the
gonna be
services that
cheaper than if
that
you
we
buy it just
provided
as
were
a
not
person.
quite as comprehensive. We actually went more comprehensive with our services to create
But
more
still,
efficiencies.
this
Like a
doesn't
bigger
take any of
company?
that into
And
consideration.
certainly
This
targeted
is
bigger
just
companies.
the price.
Yeah.
So
So
if you look at it this way, then
that's the
you can do
exercise
those
that we had to go
adjustments and
through to
decide
realize that's
how
what
you're
we
gonna
have to
market it.
That's why,
But
I
that's
was
the
just
truth.
doing Reiki
And the
classes
tr- and the
and
truth
Reiki
It's the
sessions,
logic,
and I started doing
Ah,
meditations and
logic,
coaching.
picking the
Coaching
emotion.
could be a much bigger product.
It's interesting because he broke things down differently than I did, so it's
Yeah,
nice.
this is very interesting. Thank you for.
It's very
showing
tough,
us.
Now, what-
but it works.
What you can do oftentimes is determine some percentages. And so, with our company, I was able to determine percentages, and I could take a cost of goods sold. That's the only piece of information that I needed. And I know that I need to charge 3 times whatever our cost of goods sold to cover everything else. And so now I can very quickly. come
Once
up
you
with
get
a
to-
price.
That's a good idea.
And is that the standard, 3 times 3, or is that just yours, or what?
That's our standard. I've seen that kind of throughout our industry. It's gonna be different for everybody.
Oh.
So for you, it's gonna be very different. For her, it's very different. You basically have to do 9 times your cost of goods sold to cover everything else because of all the
You
time
could
that it
even do,
takes.
and I've done this with GOL, because we sat down together way over a year and a half ago and did, gosh, almost 2 years ago, sat down and did this. And it was like, oh,
And we realized you were far behind.
yes, yes.
Well, then you look at this too, though, this is for an actual item, that she's selling for a certain price. She's got her client appointments, that are different. That's more, that there's not a lot of, there's an overhead in there, there's her time and profit. So, but what would be cost of goods sold for an appointment?
So you don't think you have labs or you have, or just your time?
Yeah.
It- it-
So,
it's
so
gonna be very low.
it's different, but yet those are that's her time though.
That's what the time.
And that's, she
That's-
has to
that's right.
include the time there. And
And the profit.
for someone who sells a lot but doesn't put a lot of time, their cost of goods sold may be really high, but they're not gonna 9 times their cost of goods sold because their time is so much less. It takes her 3 to 5 hours per plant. That gives her 15 tinctures. So there's a lot of time that goes into each and every tincture. Whereas for someone else, then they may be selling widgets, and so it costs them $2 for the widget, and it takes them 15 minutes.
I'm just saying this is a little different for services, and that's, but.
You could break it up too, so you could have like a couple, you could try like having some spreadsheets and you can set formulas. And you can just do some average plants, right? And then average is it 8 times, 9 times, 10 times, and just get a good average off of not all of your inventory, but get a good range. And then you could do a subcategory with your services too. So you don't have to do every single one, like you're saying, you could kind of have an easy button
Yeah,
multiplier.
You get your averages, and so now for tinctures, you don't have a different price for every tincture unless you have
No.
one that really stands out.
No, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I've tried
So
that, and that's a disaster.
Super,
you get
super rare,
yeah,
seasonal.
Yeah.
something that takes you 12 hours to process. Okay, well, maybe that's a different price.
Totally.
But in general, my
outlier.
tinctures are gonna be $44.
Yeah.
And that's gonna cover, it's be a little bit more for some, a little bit less for others.
Yep, I
That's
made
fine.
that executive decision, like that one.
Yeah,
And
keep
the
it
same
simple.
with the cost of your appointments, I just, I do some of that, but I do more services, so, but yeah, this is a valuable.
Hurts.
Speechless.
There was a pause.
I don't wanna do it. I know, as soon as I walk out of this room,
This
I'm
is
gonna
really
go.
awesome, but I also kind of hate you a little bit.
I think I said this before, when we did this the first time, and at that time I was not as ready to do it.
It just gets you to slow down and think about every single part that goes into the creation of this product or that service. And then you realize, wow, we love what we do. And also it's a lot of commitment to it.
And
in a lot of ways.
I'm just imagining you and you're driving out there it's not an escape, you're actually making money. This part of your business, it's your job to go out there and collect these lovely plants. And so now the time is being covered and it's part of your livelihood. And that's a totally different energy and back to it's the mindset, right?
Yeah.
So your business is not just profitable in the financial sense, it's profitable in all areas of your life. So that's the real profit, right?
Yeah.
Comes back to the real profit, why we did it in the first place. The first full circle, we're coming because we love it, we're just sharing our magic, our gift.
Living our dream.
Living our dreams. Consciously generating the life of our dreams.
Every day, together we walk.
Okay, so we're at time. We should probably wrap this up.
Woohoo!
I'm thinking, because this is a lot, like with every single one of these, it's a lot to digest, a lot of information. And I think just so we don't lose it or don't follow up, maybe we're not gonna have a fireside chat in August because we've got the many tribes. And so I think that might just be a good point on GSD Mondays, just checking in. And maybe just sitting down and, okay, maybe one of the Mondays or a couple just really evaluating this so we don't lose. Like, yes, we learn, but are we gonna take action? It's one thing to talk about it, but it's the action that we take, and that makes the results in the business. And so we can, if I make more, I can create more and I can help more.
Well, my takeaway is definitely the thing that Dana talked about, really spending time on who is it for? Who is that ideal person? Like, and that you brought up, but Dana said how valuable that was to her when she really sat down and looked at her ideal client and she really spent the time on that. And the last question was on the profit thing, really, what is my mindset on profit? Like really taking a good look at that and see how that's serving me. So spending some time in those two questions and then doing this process was really right there. That's my takeaways for my action steps for this fireside chat. Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Awesome as always. All right, we're gonna hit stop recording. Hope you guys all enjoyed this. Bye.